Possibilities in complexity. In this episode, we are going to focus on delegated payments, the show where we explore how money moves when humans are no longer the ones clicking buy or act. Yes, today we're talking about agentic payments, a world where AI agents don't just recommend products, but actually discover, negotiate, and pay on our behalf. Joseph, before we go technical, let's start simple. Why do we even need this? Why do payment agents exist at all?
That's the right place to start, Natalie. Agentic payments exist because commerce has quietly shifted from being decision-based to event-based. For decades, payments assumed something very specific. A human opens an app, reviews options, and clicks buy. But increasingly, the decision happens earlier, or has already happened, and what's left is pure execution. Let me give a very everyday example. Imagine I open my refrigerator and take the last milk or beer can. That moment is an event, not a shopping session. I already decided long ago which brand I like, what price range is acceptable, which store I trust. So why should I open an app, search, compare, and pay again? In an agentic world, an event agent detects the last item was taken. A shopping agent finds the best compliant option. A merchant agent proposes fulfillment. A payment agent settles automatically. No screen, no checkout, no human in the loop.
So the human moves upstream, defining preferences instead of executing transactions.
Exactly. Humans define intent and policy. Agents handle execution. And this isn't just a smart home fantasy. The same thing already happens in corporate and industrial environments.
Give us a corporate example.
Sure. Think of a manufacturing plant. Sensors detect lubricant levels dropping below threshold. There's no meeting, no purchase order email. An agent already knows. Approved vendors, pricing limits, compliance rules, monthly budgets. So it negotiates, places the order, and pays, because the authority was delegated earlier. What's new now is that AI agents are capable of doing this negotiation and payment end-to-end, not just triggering alerts. In most enterprises, an agent already knows the rules, because they were defined up front. A digital board resolution or procurement policy explicitly states which agents are approved vendors, what pricing limits apply, what compliance and ESG rules must be enforced, and the monthly or transaction level budgets. That resolution effectively makes the agent an authorized signatory for specific classes of payments. So when an operational event occurs, the agent doesn't decide. It executes within delegated authority.
That sounds powerful, but also risky. How do we trust an agent to spend money?
That's the core problem, and why protocols like Google's Agent Payments Protocol, or AP2, exist. Once agents start paying, we lose the old security assumption that a human is physically clicking a trusted button. A P2 replaces that assumption with something stronger: cryptographic authorization, verifiable intent, and clear accountability. In other words, a P2 doesn't ask, "Did a human click buy?" It asks, "Was this agent explicitly authorized to act? And can we prove it?"
And that's where delegated payments really begin.
Delegated payments are not about removing control. They're about moving control earlier in time, from checkout to policy.
So if delegated payments are really about policy-driven execution, that brings us to the big question. How does the payments industry actually make this safe at scale? And that's where AP2 comes in, right?
Exactly. Once agents start negotiating and paying autonomously, we hit a fundamental problem. Traditional payment systems assume one thing: a human is present at checkout. Agentic commerce breaks that assumption completely. There is no browser, no checkout page, no "Are you sure?" button. So AP2, the Agent Payments Protocol, exists to answer a single question. How do we prove that an autonomous agent is allowed to spend real money and that it's acting exactly within the user's or company's intent?
So AP2 is less about speed and more about trust.
AP2 isn't trying to replace payment rails, it's trying to govern delegation. It introduces 3 non-negotiable pillars. Authorization. Was the agent explicitly granted authority for this purchase? Authenticity. Does this transaction genuinely reflect the user's or company's intent? Accountability. If something goes wrong, can we trace responsibility clearly? Without these, agentic commerce collapses under regulatory and fraud risk.
And how does AP2 enforce that in practice?
Through something very familiar to banks, just implemented digitally. A P2 uses verifiable mandates. Think of them as cryptographically signed documents that say, "This agent may act within this scope, under these limits, for this period." For individuals, that mandate might come from a wallet or identity provider. For corporates, it maps beautifully to digital board resolutions and delegated authority matrices.
So instead of approving every transaction, the human approves the rules.
Exactly. A P2 moves approval earlier in time. Instead of approving, "Yes, buy this item now," humans approve, "You may buy items of this class from these vendors within these limits." Once that mandate exists, agents can operate continuously, safely and compliantly.
And this is where the multi-agent model comes in.
Yes, a P2 assumes no single agent should do everything. So it defines 4 cooperating agents. A shopping agent that captures intent. A merchant agent that constructs offers. A credentials provider agent that vends authorized payment credentials. A payment processing agent that executes settlement. Each agent is constrained by the same mandate chain. No mandate, no payment.
That sounds powerful, but also risky. How do we trust an agent to spend money?
It is, and that contrast is important. Protocols like X402 assume, if you hold the cryptographic key, you may pay. A P2 assumes, if you hold the mandate, you may act. One is key-based trust, the other is delegated institutional trust. And that difference determines whether a system fits, machine-to-machine micropayments, or regulated consumer and corporate commerce.
So a P2 isn't killing banks or compliance, it's actually designed for them.
Exactly. A P2 doesn't eliminate intermediaries, it clarifies responsibility. That's why card networks, banks, and large merchants are backing it. It lets agents move fast without breaking the rules.
Joseph, up to now we've talked about a P2 and X402, almost as if they're the 2 ways agentic payments can work. Are these really the only models that exist?
They're not the only ones, but they are the clearest expressions of 2 fundamentally different trust philosophies. Think of AP2 and X402 as 2 ends of a spectrum. One says, you may act because an institution explicitly delegated authority. The other says, you may act because you control the cryptographic key. Everything else is a variation or hybrid of these ideas.
Let's unpack that. What philosophy does a P2 represent?
AP2 represents delegated institutional trust. Trust doesn't come from possession of money alone. It comes from mandates, policies, identities, accountability. AP2 assumes money moves safely when authority is explicitly granted, scoped, logged, and auditable. That's why AP2 feels very natural to banks, card networks, regulators, large enterprises. It mirrors how the real world already works. Boards delegate authority, managers approve policies, systems enforce them.
And X402?
X402 is the opposite end, cryptographic trust. Its philosophy is, if you hold the key, you hold the power. There's no delegation chain, no mandate registry, no institutional approval flow. An agent proves identity by signing with a wallet key, pays in stablecoins, and the transaction is final. That's incredibly powerful for machine-to-machine payments, micropayments, API access, autonomous agent services. But it also assumes key control equals legitimacy.
So a P2 trusts authority, X402 trusts possession.
Exactly. You can summarize it like this. A P2, show me your mandate. X402, show me your signature. Neither is wrong, they just solve different problems.
Are there other models? And also, where do existing systems fit? Wallets, app stores, super apps?
Those are a third trust model actually, platform trust. Think Apple Pay, Google Pay, Grab, Alipay. Here, users trust the platform. Merchants trust the platform. Agents don't really exist independently. It works well, but it's closed, centralized, and not agent native. Agents don't negotiate, they don't hold mandates, they just execute within the platform's rules.
And you mentioned something emerging beyond these.
Yes, what I'd call reputation and insurance-backed trust. This is still early, but the idea is agents build reputations over time. Bad behavior raises premiums or revokes coverage. Payments are insured, not just authorized. Think, this agent may act, and if it fails, liability is covered. This could become important for autonomous supply chains, AI to AI services, long-running agents making many small decisions. A P2 governs who is allowed to act. X402 governs who controls value. Platforms govern who owns the ecosystem.
So the real future won't pick just one.
Yes, we'll see. A P2-style delegation for consumers, corporates, regulated commerce. X402 style for agent services and APIs. Platform trust where ecosystems dominate. The winning architectures will be the ones that combine these trust models.